All right. You know what time it is. The book tour continues. The lives continue to be changed. We've been spanning all over the globe, and it's been amazing watching the impact that this book and this special new release has had upon so many people already. We already hit a bestseller, international bestseller. We're climbing up the charts in the USA. We want everybody to participate, join in on this revolution of positivity. We're talking about the science of getting rich, special, universal edition. And we brought back a powerhouse. So what happened was he interviewed me, and so now we're going to interview him because we want to really dig in and pick his brain about how he's been able to become so successful at a young age, and then also what he's been doing as far as with the principles of this book and how he can give you some advice to be able to help you. So I'd love to bring back Mr. Josh Payne to the stage, have him share all the way from California. Are you out in Cali, Josh?
Yes, sir. Silicon Valley, California. Yep, absolutely.
Silicon Valley. Were you born in that area? I mean, what's the attachment there?
Yeah. So I've been here for over 20 years, born in Sacramento,
Okay.
and my way of school, career, landed here in the Silicon Valley about 20 years ago. Met my wife here, and she wasn't going anywhere. So we stayed right here.
So your wife is from that area.
Yes.
So you're
Yeah.
good and planted there, got strong roots, strong family. Let's talk a little bit about your upbringing. Okay, you're born in Sacramento. Let's talk about your progression. What was your childhood aspirations and what's happened since those dreams in the sandbox? Where are you at today? We'd love to hear all of that.
Yeah, man. Well, first and foremost, congratulations, Jay, on all the success of the book and what a great project that you've put together with the perspective of changing people's lives with the information that was originally put out in 1910, 112 years ago, that you've brought back to life in the special universal edition. Just kudos to you. Congratulations on its success. I was born and raised in Sacramento, California, Jay. My entire life was revolved around playing professional baseball. As I know that you had such a successful career and playing in the major leagues, and you couldn't find me from about the age of 5 onward without a glove in one hand, a ball in the other, a bat in a hand, and I just loved the game of baseball. Ended up growing up. Went to school, ended up on a Division I college baseball scholarship where I had a great career. Hall of Fame inductee in 2017. I appeared in Sports Illustrated, MVP all conference in one of the top conferences in the nation for baseball. But all that changed one day when I found myself laying on my back, staring up at the sky after suffering a back injury that at that point in time, I knew I was probably going to recover from, but I knew athletes, especially baseball players, especially catchers, are a dime a dozen, right? And I knew that the reality of playing at the next level was over. And when the season ended, sure enough, sort of the draft came and went, and a couple of phone calls of candy bar and plane ticket offers that just wasn't going to be feasible with the condition I was in physically. And that's when everything changed. And I really didn't know what I was going to do, man. I tell everyone I was sort of living a life of quiet desperation at that point. My purpose, my passion was gone. And fast forward, after a couple more degrees from school, I landed in the private country club industry here in the Silicon Valley. And I got to tell you, man, that is when everything changed for me, Jay. And I'm going to tell you why. My environment changed. See, growing up as an athlete, everything I knew, playing, training with all the professional, major league ball players from Sacramento as they come back in the off season, I knew what that looked like as an athlete. But once you took the athlete side out, I sort of only knew what I knew, which was sort of an average middle class life. And when I started working in the private country club industry, that's when everything changed, because I realized, wow, there's a totally different life out there, servicing some of the wealthiest people in the world. And I decided at 31, man, that I was going to unlearn everything I'd ever been taught about making money, business success, and I was going to open my mind to learning from people that had the life that I wanted. And therein lied the transformation in my life post athlete to where we are today, because I changed my environment. I opened my perspective to new stories that were being told that were much different than the stories I was telling myself and others at that point in my life. And that's where my personal development journey began. That's when I started picking up books like the Science of Getting Rich, and started reading things that opened up my mind to say, there's more out there available for somebody like you, Josh. And all of a sudden the awareness opened and my life changed and progressed forward. Here we are today.
Man, what a great opening. We're talking to Josh Payne all the way from Silicon Valley, California. All these great things have come out of Silicon Valley. He's told you a little bit about his background. Wallace D. Wattles writes in his book, and by the way, the paperback is now available. I got my hands. It just like I was at the door yesterday and I was like, oh, what's that at the door? The paperback, beautifully printed. Everybody's going to love to have their hands on the ebook so that they've got that use of ease wherever you're at, Josh, but also the paperback. So you can put your hands on it. You can scratch notes in it. But Josh, in chapter 1 here, I want to get your take on this. The name of the chapter is The Right to Be Rich. See, so many people have, misconceptions about the word rich. You being a financial professional in Silicon Valley. I mean, we've got some stature here with this incredible man, Josh Payne. When Wallace D. Wattles says the right to be rich, and I'm going to jump down a few paragraphs. He says on page 23 at the bottom, a person's right to life means their right to have the free and unrestricted use of all things which may be necessary to their fullest mental, spiritual, and physical unfoldment. Or in other words, the right to be rich. In this book, I shall not speak of riches in a figurative way. To be really rich does not mean to be satisfied or contented with a little. No person ought to be satisfied with the little if they are capable of using and enjoying more. The purpose of nature is advancement and the unfoldment of life, and every person should have all that can contribute to the power, elegance, beauty, and richness of life. To be content with less is sinful, he says, Josh Payne. You, from a financial perspective, a professional dealing with all these people all the time, what's your take on what Mr. Wallace just said there?
There's a couple of really key points to that statement. I think the first sentence in the book that talks about it's impossible to live a complete life unless we are, what he says, rich, right? And what you mentioned in there, you mentioned progression. See, human nature is meant to progress forward. We're meant to grow. We're meant to evolve. That's, as a human being in our lives, that's what we're meant to do. Well, what does he say? It's nearly impossible to do that without the resources. You look at all these big tech companies. Like I was telling Robert, I can throw a rock down the street and I can hit the eBay headquarters. I can drive 10 minutes up the road and I'm at the big Apple spaceship, corporate headquarters. Without money, the lives that those companies change, the opportunities they provide were impossible. And so the point I believe that Wallace Wattles is talking about is that our fullness in life comes from our ability to utilize resources to be a great example and to help others become successful as well. And that requires the resources to create change in our country, in our communities, whatever the case may be, Jay.
He says on here, there is nothing wrong in wanting to be rich. So you dealing with people from a financial perspective every day. Have you noticed that people really have a problem with having abundance, having wealth, which kind of relates to them not taking care of themselves and being responsible? What are you noticing in that area, Josh?
Yeah, here's my perspective on the right to be wealthy. First of all, is this, like, let's understand where money comes from. Money comes from an exchange of service.
Yes.
If I make somebody else's life better, then the reward, the monetary reward in return, is really nothing but a certificate of performance, as written by Rabbi Daniel Lapin, specifically says that. It's a certificate of performance for a service that I've rendered to make somebody else's life better. So therefore, the bigger problems I solve and the faster frequency with which I solve those, the more money's going to come in. And that is a good thing. Why? Because those certificates of performance, they represent somebody else's life improving because I was there. So, as it relates to what Wallace Wattles talks about in the book, he says you have to be willing to give more value than reward received, but that reward received then is a good thing because of the value you've traded in return for that money.
And we're getting deep now. Now we're starting to cook like Steph Curry last night. He was cooking, baby. He started cooking last night. Congratulations to the Golden State Warriors up in your area. Yes. NBA champions for the 4th time in the last 8 years. Talking about building a dynasty, building it from scratch. I'm talking about they built that organization. They didn't buy that. They built that. And so that kind of leads me into something else that Wallace Wattles is talking about when it comes to building championship teams, a championship life, championship finances. He goes on to write here on page 32. Getting rich involves the necessity of dealing with people and being where there are people to deal with. And if these people are inclined to deal in a way you want to deal, so much the better. But that is about as far as environment goes when it comes to getting wealth. If anybody else in your town can get rich, so can you. And if anybody else in your state can get rich, so can you. Again, it is not a matter of choosing some particular business or profession. People get rich in every business, in every profession, while their next door neighbors in the same vocation remain in poverty. So Josh, what do you have to say about that? Because you've seen coming up in sports, a lot of people got some great talent, man. I mean, off the charts. I have players around me all the time that have more talent than me. But what is he saying here about, it ain't just about your environment. I'd love to get your take from your financial mindset in your profession.
Yeah. Well, I think that a couple of things. I love what he says in that just a little bit past that. He says, look, talented people get rich, untalented people get rich. He says blockheads get rich, brilliant people get rich, strong people get rich, weak people get rich, smart people get rich, stupid people get rich. Those are the words of Wallace Wattles. So again, what's the separator? Well, he says in the first sentence, or one of the first sentences of chapter 4, he says, thought is the only power which can produce the riches. So what's the difference? What's the difference between an athlete like I was, who had maybe 70% of the talent to produce results that were some of the best at that time, that year in the country and at the school, to receive the recognition? I mean, what's the difference? It's the way I thought. And then what he talks about later on in the book, I think it was in chapter 11, which was putting the action behind the thought. So I had the right thought, put the action behind the thought, and get the results, right? So it's, yes, there's an extent to which the environment has an effect, but look, if there's anybody around you that has ever had success, it means it's possible. And the only thing that's going to stop us is the thoughts that we have and the action we back it up with. If we have the right thoughts and we back it up with right action, success is inevitable if you do the right things long enough.
Man, I tell you what this is telling me is that this information that we're sharing is critical, because this is what builds your real talent when it comes to your opportunity to get wealth. If you can listen to people like Josh Payne, who's been through it, done it. Josh, did anybody hand you anything? Just give you anything?
Hey, the free enterprise system is just that. You're going to get out of it what you put into it, right? And that's a beautiful thing, but it is a very revealing thing, right? And there's a saying that when the tide rolls out, we'll see who's swimming with the pants down, right? You know, and that's that's the reality, right? So nothing is given, everything is earned. We're going to pay rent. We're going to pay rent monthly. We're going to pay full price. Right, so we've got to make sure that we got this right? Because if this is right, then I can put the right actions in to get the results. But if this isn't right, the action don't matter, because we got to come back down to the very fundamental level, which is how we think, which is what Wallace Wattles talks about. And then as we get our mind right, we put the actions to back it up and produce the results of that with which we have clearly defined that we want.
Hey guys, this is a powerhouse interview with Mr. Josh Payne. Want y'all to share this, share it with people, share with people you want to help them get better. A lot of folks, they get a little intimidated. You get talking about money and wealth. We're not just talking about riches with money. To me, that's just the byproduct. Anytime I get around people and they hear me, and I talk about abundance a lot, I talk about wealth a lot, I talk about rich a lot, but the definition is critical. What Josh Payne means when someone, a matter of fact, what does rich mean to Josh Payne?
Fulfillment. Fulfilling my full potential. Knowing that monetarily speaking, that's going to come through solving problems. But it's that full potential. It's being fulfilled in my purpose on this planet to leave a mark and make impact. And if I do that, then the rewards of every other area are going to naturally come back. It's just that very saying, Jay, that I said, is that they're just certificates of performance of making impact in the community. And it doesn't matter the industry, right? It doesn't matter. It's not, he says in the book, it's not the business you have, whatever it is, you fulfill it to its fullest potential and the rewards will come, right? So it's understanding that and knowing that when we put this to it, that the rewards are going to be there. It's not the business. It's not the environment. It's not whether you're born into rich. It's how do you think? Have you clearly defined what you want? Have you put it in the right spot? And are you backing it up with the action to attain it? So fulfillment.
It's good to know what somebody means by what they say. Words are power. Words are energy, you know. And so when we understand what Wallace Wattles is talking about, think about this man. Like Josh said in the beginning, 112 years ago. Josh, I would love to get your take on how Wallace Wattles back in 1910, over a century ago, 112 years ago, writing like he was writing in this book. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, here's what I know. 110 years ago, 112 years ago, we were riding around in 1910. If I wanted to go see Jay in Baton Rouge or in Boca Raton, Florida, I had to go water up the horses, hook on the buggy, and it was going to take me probably 10 months to get over to Boca Raton, Florida by horse and buggy. That, because listen, the assembly lines came, Henry Ford invented the assembly line, in 1913 or 1915, right, to mass produce the automobile. So we weren't there yet. So that was 1910. Okay, fast forward to 2022, halfway through 2022. think about all the innovation. I mean, it's mind-boggling when you start to think about it. It's impossible to put your finger on everything. We've gone from horse and buggy. I think this one stands out the most to me. We've gone from horse and buggy, Jay, to private man-powered flight to space. Private space flight, right? Horse and buggy to private space flight to space. I don't even know what space is. Like, what is space? That's where we fly to now, okay? Yet, the principles that Wallace Waddle wrote about in 1910 have changed zero. The principles of the mind are exactly the same. And to me, that's what's so powerful about a book like this. When we understand it was written 112 years ago, we can draw an analogy to that period of time. We can draw an analogy to today, and we realize that nothing has changed as it relates to the principles of the mind. How powerful is that?
That's what blows me away. When you think about the minimum they say human beings have been on this earth is at least 6,000 years. It says the minimum. And I'm going back 6,000 years and I'm thinking, okay, I've got skin, I got teeth, I got, nose, hair, ears, right? All these other people were getting up, going about their day. And now we live in all these comforts. Like, when I plugged my computer in this morning and I saw that little spark, from the socket to let me know that there's electricity coming through, I was like, I'm so thankful. Because they didn't have that. But at the same time, I'm wondering, Josh, what do you think took humans so long to get to the point where all these things are created that fast? In the last 100 years, like you say, pretty much all these major things have happened in the last 100, 150 years. So thousands of years, what do you believe has happened that all of a sudden, bam, everybody's starting to get it?
Yeah, Jay, I look, we had somebody so I look the way I think about things. I'm a very, you show me a logical progression, I can get from A to Z. But I don't have a logical progression. I'm lost. And I think that's the way it is for a lot of people. Well, what did Wallace Waddles do when he came out with the book in 1910? He created the science. See, here's the thing I love this quote one of my mentors says, money is math, math is science, and science is fact. So what did he do? He created what he calls the science, he said is like arithmetic or algebra, okay? So he created the equation for success. He created the system for success that if we follow the system, we start to have the results that we desire. And that's what he called it. It's a science, right? So it's like the law of gravity. We could debate the law of gravity, but if we step off that building, what's going to happen? I'm going to fall to the ground, okay? It's just a law. Well, so is the science that he put together, the system he put together on how to have success in life. Once we know the recipe, now we can bake the cake, if that makes sense, Jay. And once the recipe was defined, all of a sudden, people started thinking in the right way, and therefore results started to happen, and we started to have progression in the last 100 years that we haven't had prior to.
So here's where I'm willing to go on this. You take people like Wallace Waddles that gets all these thoughts together, because everything comes from thought. And then when he does what you said, Josh, he puts it in a system, a scientific method, and then he raised the awareness. He used Elizabeth Town and her publishing company. That's why I love media. I love publishing. I love it because it raises awareness. Social media, you and I right here, we're raising awareness just like he did. And there were a small group of people, like it's going to happen here, that said, dang, he's on to it. He's packaged it. I don't have to guess. And I bet you some of these people, like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Carnegie, oh yeah, Napoleon Hill. Because Napoleon Hill, before he became Napoleon Hill, there was already Carnegie, and these guys were already rocking the Rockefellers. But I wonder, Josh, if all these big time names that we know about now, I wonder if they might have got a hold of this man's book and said, I'm doing this. What do you think?
Well, timeline and success says that that's likely the case, right? We know that, as you mentioned, somewhere between that time of 1910 and 1937 or 34, when Think and Grow Rich came out, there was a 20-year period. He did some studies. So somewhere in there were some massive growth in these names that are household names today. Well, where did they get that information? I promise you, it wasn't any information that was different. You said a very important word called awareness. Before we can ever grow to the next level, we have to be aware that there's another level. And I quite possibly believe that they became aware that there was a formula to put their talents into a system to produce the results that they were looking to produce, and they put that into play, and that's where they exploded and became, world-renowned, world changers, right? Because of a system that enabled them to accomplish that.
Man, I'm telling you, man, I go through the book and I know when I'm reading it, I feel challenged. But I
Yes.
know it's making sense, man. I'm reading it. I'm going, woo! That's I get chills. Josh, I don't know about sometimes I want to run out the house and run down the street. I'm so fired up because I'm going, he's packaged this. He's got this on point. This is a man that took the time, effort, energy to dissect all the different formulas and said, all right, y'all can go out here and chase all this metaphysics if you want. You can go do all these countless years of study that I've done. But I'm telling you, you're not going to need any other book other than this book. He was that bold, Josh, to say you're not going to need another book. He tells you don't listen to anybody else that tells you a different theory than in this book. And I bet you there was some people says, all right, I'm going to take him up on it, because he also challenges says, if everybody applies everything that he's taught in this book, they will get rich. And I bet you there's some people said, I'm going to do it. Well, the masses are going, what do you got to say about getting distracted? What do you got to say about other people's opinions? What do you got to say about what most people are going to do in your experience, Josh?
No, most people in life in general, and we can tie the analogy to whatever situation we want to tie it to, but the reality is most people, likely around that time as well, they simply listen to the opinions and thoughts of those surrounding them. That's natural. That's what we're used to. We do it from when we're a small child. We're so influenced by the people around us. But the world class, whatever world class means to anybody, the best of the best at what they do, right? The best of the best in business, the best of the best in athletes. They seek guidance. They seek guidance from people that have what they want and are getting the results that they want right now. So we have a choice at that point. And this is likely what happened with the small group that listened back then and the masses that didn't. We had a choice. Listen to those people that are surrounding us that are doing the best they can. They just see life through the lens that they have. Can't fault them for it, but I've got a choice to listen or to not listen. Or I can listen to the people that have what I want, that have a totally different lens, that can teach me a totally different way of thinking and put the different lens on me so that I can see and do the things I want to do from the advice of people that have what I want to have. And that probably is what happened as he came out and gave that challenge back then. And the ones that took the challenge because they listened to somebody that had it figured out ended up becoming world changers.
Well, I'm proud. I just want to get your thoughts on it. I'm so proud of Wallace Wattles, even though he's gone. I would love to just tell him in spirit how proud I am that he had the courage and audacity to go put something together that everybody could relate to. Think about it. Do you think that the wealthiest of wealthy people are going to stop, take the time, effort, and energy and teach anybody their secrets? No, because most people are operating from a spirit of competitiveness on the competitive plane. Josh, you and I, we had to build our sports careers on the competitive plane. Wallace Waddle says, you are going to fail miserably. You're not going to be happy. Whatever you gain, you're going to lose it if you operate on the competitive plane. How have you been able to balance that out in your life now that Wallace Waddles has challenged? Get off the competitive plane, only operate on the creative plane, Josh.
Yeah, wow. That is a challenge. You said the right word. It is a challenge because innately, and I think there's when we say competitive plane, in my perspective, and I think you probably would agree with this, there's a difference between being competitive in a way whereby there's a sum zero game, right? One person wins, one person loses. And I believe that that's the competitive perspective. Like if I I've got to be competitive to get as much as I can because there's a limited supply of success or abundance, right? There's not abundance, there's a limited supply of whatever that success is. So understanding that abundance is everywhere in every realm, and everybody can have as much success as they can possibly have. So it's understanding that while being competitive with myself to be the best person I can be, collaboratively working with people to elevate the collective whole, right? So competitive with myself to be a great example, to continue to get better so that I can collaboratively work together and elevate the collective together, yet understanding that we all win together. There is no sum zero, not one person's going to win and the other one loses, that we all have the ability to win together. And I 100% agree that we're in a time of collaboration versus competition, staying creative together, because all ships, as the old saying goes, all ships rise on the same sea, Jay.
Man, that's so strong, man. Like this conversation, people have to listen to conversations like this, get this knowledge, because Josh and I today, through this interview, are bringing you awareness. I'm able to talk to someone that deals every day with the financial mind and how people are set up. Josh, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? Like you get up in the morning and now here goes Josh to go take care of his family, his life. What do you do? And let people know so they can have an idea about what Josh Payne does.
Yeah, Jay, we've spent the last 14 years doing two things, really. Number one is breaking down the systemic problem in our country of lack of equal access to the financial education and resources across all economic borders. And what do I mean by that? It's like, look, man, in my experience, if I wasn't born and raised on the right side of the tracks or with a silver spoon in my mouth, right, the financial education that we need to be successful is not readily available. There's a lack of equal access to it. And we want to break that down, and we want to deliver financial literacy for all. Okay. The second thing we do is that we also are on a mission to help people realize that, look, there's more available. This was the evolution that I went through, is to share this evolution that I developed an awareness that there's more available than what I was taught my entire life, which was that 9 to 5, rat race of a job and career where I'm climbing the ladder. I read recently a description that says we can climb the ladder, but if the ladder's leaning against the wrong wall, then it doesn't matter. We got to ensure that ladder that we're trying to climb is leaning against the correct wall. And that wall, I believe, is what our country was founded on, which is the free enterprise system, entrepreneurship. And so we help people get into business for themselves within the financial industry. We bring a business in a box to aspiring entrepreneurs to provide the best opportunity for success, getting started in business on the mission of delivering financial literacy for all, Jay. And that is our passion. That's what we wake up for every day, to ensure that we all have a shot to build the life that we desire to build, because we've been afforded the right information to accomplish those goals.
Man, check him out at joshpayne.com. We put it up on the screen there, joshpayne.com. You can be able to get information, reach out to him. I know Josh responds to everybody. Make sure you talk to him. He's got the mind of success and he's living it. Now, Josh, as we close out here, I want to get your thoughts on this incredible statement that Wallace D. Wattles drives home again and again. And he tells us to memorize it and press it so up on our thoughts until it's just second nature. He says, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. A person can form things in their thoughts, and by impressing their thoughts upon formless substance, can cause the thing that they think about to be created. Josh, your thoughts on that formulated statement from Wallace D. Wattles?
That statement is why I had to read the book 5 times to to ingest the power of that statement, right? Is to really understand what he was saying, and then to realize that through history, every thought leader says the exact same thing. It may be chocolate, it may be strawberry, it may be vanilla on how they say it, but it's all the same. So we can carry that all the way back to its origin, which could be perhaps considered this book in 1910, which says we become that with which we think about. And when I understood that, and I understood his perspective on living in the now. Right now is all that matters. Right now, that fear and worry comes from the future, sadness and depression comes from the past, but living in the right now, understanding we become that with which we think about. So clearly define what we want. We have to clearly define what we want. Before that is awareness that it's actually more is available. Once we're aware, we clearly define what we want. Jay, I can't believe the number of people that I work with that have never identified what they want in life. I'm going to finish it with this. I had a mentor of mine tell me early on. She said, Josh, fuzzy goals, fuzzy results. Clear goals, clear results. Figure out what you want. Stay focused on the desired result that we want. Stay focused on the now, the present, because that's the only thing that matters. Pure joy comes from living in the now, and know that when we put our thoughts and we impress it upon the universe, as Wallace Wattles says, right, and we back it with the action, it's already on its way. It's already on its way. It's not we're working towards the goals, We've established them. We already have them, and we're reverse engineering it backwards. Actually, they're already, once I make the decision, they're already there. I've already accomplished it. It's now just reverse engineering it backwards to bring it into its physical realm.
Yeah, it's like the acorn. That acorn is an oak tree.
An oak tree.
It's already an oak tree. It's just got to be planted. Most people haven't planted themselves. Like you say, haven't got clear. See, when you get clear, you get planted. And so I know that this conversation is going to impact a lot of people, especially on the replays as it goes out throughout the world. Josh, any parting words? I know you scratch notes. You always are so prepared. Any lessons you want to leave us with here before we close this out? The stage is yours. Rip.
Yeah, man. I would say this, Jay. I think we're in a time right now where chapter 8 is so vitally important in what Wallace Wattles talks about, where we don't achieve abundance in life by focusing on lack. We don't achieve health by focusing on disease. We don't achieve riches by focusing on poverty. And we're in a time right now where there's so much noise in our world that we have to be very intentional every day on where this is focused. Turn off the news, right? Turn off the TV. Put the universal edition, the new edited universal edition of The Science of Thinking Rich. Put these resources in front of your mind and make sure that we're focused on what we want and we don't get caught up in focusing on the opposite, because nothing is ever achieved, as Wallace Wattles says, by focusing on their opposites. And with the noise out there and the media and everything out there wanting to get us to drift off and focus on all this other stuff, right now more than ever, something like this, a book like this from MYB Publishing that comes out, the universal edition of The Science of Getting Rich, is so vitally important to fill the mind with the right things that are going to help us move forward and take advantage of the underlying opportunity that's on the other side of these tough times that we're going through right now. Jay, back to you.
Oh, awesome, man. What a close out there. Josh Pay bringing the heat. Took you over to chapter 8. If you got the book, that'll show up on page 77. He talks about thinking in the certain way. This book, I promise you, if you will allow it, will impact you and get you thinking in the certain way that will allow you to think the way you want to think, to be what you want to be, to have what you want to have, and to be able to surround yourself with people like Josh Payne. I'm just so honored. And I want everybody to go grab a copy. You can see there on the website, scrolling across, getsogr.com. So much loaded on that page right now. You can see the video. You can get the link direct to the book. You can get the ebook, still 99 cents. The ebook is still 99 cents. The paperback is not 99 cents. But what we did is we kept this under $10 so that the world could get it. Now, we could have easily put this at $20 or more, but we said, let's get this to where the world can get their hands on it. So pick it up and then make sure you leave a review. People are asking, okay, I got the book, I've read it, any way I can support now? Yes, please leave a review over on Amazon. That continues to help get the word out. Leave a review. Go back if you've already bought it. Go back to the same link, and what you're going to find is a place where you can leave a review, and we would so much appreciate it. Josh, man, I'm so impressed by you. I'm so proud of you and what you've accomplished, and watching your life with your beautiful wife, your family there, to be able to see you spending that time with your son out there cracking them balls, but being present. Yes. Man, what's that worth, just to be present? Josh, thank you so much for joining us here today. Everybody spread this. Go give Josh a follow on all the social media platforms. Until next time, keep on thinking, keep on growing, and make sure you get out of the science. Get it ready. Thank you, Josh. Thanks.